The human brain is one of the smartest on the planet. But there are some things we just can't wrap our minds around. One of those is the paradox. We've evolved to think of reality in a specific way. But there are paradoxes out there that suggest reality doesn't work the way we think it does.
And now, some physicists think they've solved a 50-year-old paradox. But have they?
And what are the other strangest paradoxes? Get ready to find out. A lot of you are probably familiar with the Fermi paradox.
Named after Italian physicist Enrico Fermi, who is famous for creating the first nuclear reactor. And this paradox seeks to answer the question, where are the aliens?
Given that our star and Earth are part of a fairly young planetary system compared to the rest of the universe, and that it's possible for a civilization to achieve interstellar travel during this time, it seems we should have been visited by some form of extraterrestrial intelligence by now. Now, some say it's not a real paradox, because we can only guess that there is intelligent life out there.
But the Drake equation is used in this so-called paradox to estimate the number of possible civilizations in our galaxy.
The Drake equation uses 7 variables to estimate the number of detectable civilizations in the Milky Way.
This gave us an idea that there could be millions of Earth-like worlds with civilizations out there. But this was back in 1961, and no one knew of any worlds orbiting stars other than our own. It was only recently that we got a good idea. In 2020, astronomers using data from the Kepler Space Telescope
found there were more than 300 million worlds with similar conditions to Earth, scattered throughout the Milky Way.
The analysis concluded that roughly half of the galaxy's sun-like stars host rocky planets, inhabitable zones where liquid water could be on the surface. In fact, planets are extremely common and outnumber all the stars in our galaxy. And very soon, the James Webb Space Telescope will be headed into space to look for new, potentially habitable worlds. We'll have a new video on that soon, so make sure to stay tuned here. Now that we know how many worlds there are, and how many possibilities there could be advanced civilizations,
the question remains, why is the universe silent?
Maybe we're about to find out soon, as technology advances. Or perhaps we've already been visited by some far-off civilization, and just don't know it yet.
There have been many unexplained UFO sightings recently, and some believe extraterrestrials are already here.
Solid proof of that would put an end to this paradox.
The bootstrap paradox is a paradox of time travel that questions how something that's taken from the future and placed in the past could ever come into existence in the first place. It's a common theme used by writers, inspiring plot lines in many science fiction films, such as the Bill and Ted movies, Terminator, and Doctor Who.
So let's look at one of the examples of this paradox. Imagine that you're a time traveler. But before you go on an excellent adventure,
You go into a bookstore and buy a copy of Hamlet, written by Shakespeare. You then travel back in time to London during the Elizabethan era and give the book to the master playwright. William S. then copies the book and claims it as his own work. Centuries go by, and during this time, Hamlet is printed and reproduced countless times, until a copy of it ends up in the same bookstore that you bought it from.
The question then becomes, who wrote Hamlet?
This is another famous paradox, which involves you going back in time to take out your grandfather. By that, we mean erasing his existence.
Now, we know everyone here loves their grandparents, but this is only an example. Once again, you're a time traveler, and you pop back in time to do the deed.
And erase your grandfather's existence.
You then return to present time. But the thing is,
With your grandfather gone, your father wasn't born, and you now realize you never even existed.
Everything about you has now been erased, including all your family, friends, and
All your possessions and your history. So you wouldn't have been born in the first place, so it would be impossible to do this. Now, some scientists believe that if this were to happen, you would have now created an alternate timeline, or even entered a parallel universe. By the way, for those who missed our video on parallel universes, check out the link in the description. Another interesting variant to the grandfather paradox: going back in time to eliminate Hitler to stop World War II. This would have some interesting consequences. Let's say you have a shiny time machine, and you've got a plan to go back. Before things get out of control during the war, and put things right.
The problem now is that the action removes any reason to travel back in time, along with any knowledge that the reason to time travel back ever existed. Acting as a time-traveling executioner simply creates a paradox.
And, along with the many worlds idea, traveling back in time might create a new timeline without the Führer. But the old timeline would also still exist. You might even create a new timeline that's even worse.
Acting as a time-traveling executioner simply creates a paradox.
But Polchinski also came up with a potentially paradoxical situation involving a billiard ball sent through a wormhole
that travels back in time.
In this scenario, the billiard ball is fired into a wormhole at such an angle. If it continues along the path, it will exit the wormhole in the past at the right angle to collide with its earlier self, thereby knocking it off course and preventing it from entering the wormhole in the first place.
However, some physics students came up with solutions which avoid any inconsistencies.
By having the ball emerge from the future at a different angle than the one used to generate the paradox.
And deliver its younger self a glancing blow instead of knocking it completely away from the wormhole.
A blow which changes its trajectory in the right way so that it will travel back in time.
With the angle required to deliver its younger self this glancing blow.
Now, here's something that will make you think about reality differently. The observer's paradox is something very strange indeed.
And of all the bizarre facts of quantum theory, there are few stranger than Schrödinger's famous fable. It's about a cat that's neither alive nor deceased. For the record, this is a thought experiment only, and no animals have been harmed. The paradox describes a cat that's locked inside of a windowless box along with some radioactive material.